realized now kids are pretty durable. You know what I mean? You don't need to panic so much about oh, they're in the 96th percentile and they need to be in the 98th percentile. And you know what I mean? Like, I think marriages are like that too. The thing I got out of divorce, what that was really helpful to me was when I felt like I was at rock bottom after that, I knew absolutely what I was not going to ever tolerate again.
Welcome to Gap to Gig, the show for dads navigating the in-between season when work, identity, and priorities start asking different questions. Here we talk about what that season looks like and how to move through it with intention. I'm your host, Michael Jacobs, and today's guest is Rob Capili. Rob's a writer, filmmaker, musician, and digital strategist who spent his career building things across a wide range of creative and business worlds. His work has generated millions in revenue and has been featured in places like the New York Times and Wired. He's also an award-winning filmmaker, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and someone who's navigated a lot of life transitions. Rob's a dad whose kids are now grown, and along the way, he rebuilt his life after divorce, started new creative ventures, and kept showing up for the people in his life. Rob, welcome to Gap to Gig. I'm really thrilled to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Man, thanks for having me.
Of course. Your journey is pretty incredible, and you've, I think, learned a lot along the way. And I kind of want to start with you and your path. For people hearing your story for the first time, how would you describe the path that led you to the work you're doing today?
Man, I would describe it as long and winding. It wasn't necessarily a straight shot. So
Sure.
I have a degree in letters, right? Which is history, philosophy, classical culture, but I've always worked in tech. So I've never taken a straight road anywhere. I've just kind of always followed where curiosity led me.
That's cool. It's very obvious to me, knowing you a little bit now, like you are somebody who follows his passion, follows that curiosity, the things that interest you, and like because you're across a lot of different fields, right? Like from what I know of you, like you do work in AI.
Yeah.
You have just completed an incredible graphic novel, right? Lover's Quarrel.
Thank you.
Uh, right? Like you do all sorts of like musical stuff. You do film production stuff. You've written scripts. Like it's your work spans a lot of different creative worlds,
Yeah.
plus like actual business too, like writing, filmmaking, digital strategy, building brands. What's kind of kept all those pieces connected for you over time? Is it just the interest thing? Is it a creativity thing? Like, how do those things come together for you?
I mean, it's definitely based on interest. Like all the stuff seems cool or interesting to me, fun,
Yeah.
right? Challenging. I like challenging things. I I don't know. I've always been kind of like that. I grew up as a military brat. So every 2 to 3 years, my whole world got dumped upside down. You'd be one place, and you kind of have, yeah, just be a popular kid at this school. And then you move to the next school and you're a complete outcast. And then you go to the next place and it's like nobody speaks English, right? So I've always kind of had a lot of different worlds that I've inhabited. And I think maybe some of that just kind of leaked into my interests. Like I was exposed to so many things in so many different cultures that I started just kind of collecting different things that I liked from around the world.
That's cool. It must have been challenging though to like keep starting over, right? And especially when you're young, like I don't know if like I guess there's an element of stability or instability there of having to start over every couple of years as you move. But then, you seem to have a very steady, stable presence about you. How do you kind of merge those two? Like how did that come to be?
Well, I think if your world is constantly changing around you, the only kind of stable thing is yourself, right? Like you and your family. So I never really got attached too much to places or things. But then the stuff that is internal, I think, is what you really value and cultivate. Things that you believe in, things that you enjoy, things that you like. That's what's going to be stable, whether you're in like California, Hawaii, Germany, when you're moving around to different places.
Right. Right. So you've also raised your kids through some major life transitions, right? Like
Yeah.
including divorce. And when you look back now, what were the hardest parts of that time as a dad of those transitions?
Like raising the kids.
Yeah, raising the kids.
Man, I think everybody looks back at what they did as a father when they're raising their kids and they have regrets about things they think they should or shouldn't have done. Um, Divorce makes it even harder though, because anyone who's gone through divorce no, I mean, I guess some people have easy divorces, but for me, that was one of the most difficult periods of my entire life. I mean, not just the divorce, but the circumstances leading up to it, right? It kind of destroys a lot of things in your life. And while you're trying to just keep your head above water, even on a personal level, then you have to keep your business stuff going. Financially, you still have responsibilities. And then you're still trying to be a father, right? It's
Right.
like, how do you, it's kind of like you're being swept over the falls and you're trying not to, spill your drink. It's almost impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I've been through the same thing, right? Like we've talked about this. I've been through a divorce. It was a rough situation. It was not like you said. Yeah, I'm sure there are easy divorces out there. This was not one of them,
Yeah.
right? And I had my own business when I got divorced and trying to manage that and manage the all the things around the divorce and then not letting any of that take away from what my first priority was, which was the kids,
Yeah.
right? I can't 100% protect the kids at all times during the divorce, right? Like they are going to be split, spending time at both houses and they are going to be exposed to things that I wouldn't, I can't always be in control of what's going on. So how do I, to me, the challenge is always like, how do I put them first? Like make sure they are taken care of to the degree that I can, right? Like I think I had to learn that it's okay not to be perfect, not to be like the super dad, right? Like you just have to let them experience things, right? And for me, it's still challenging, right? My kids are older now, like they're one's graduating high school, the other one's in high school, and like they understand a lot more now than they did then. And it just brings up new challenges of like, would they prefer not to be splitting time between two houses? 100%. Would they have preferred to not see their parents start over? I think so, right? But that's unfortunately that's just the way life goes sometimes. And yes, I always try to have the kids' best interests in mind, but it doesn't always work out, I think, right? Like, and I just have to admit to myself, like, it's going to happen. That's okay.
It,
And
even figuring out what their best interest is a problem, right? Like I remember when I was still going through couples counseling and stuff like that, my ex-wife was adamant that I not tell the kids about certain things, that I not tell them the truth about certain things, that I not answer certain things. My mindset was always kind of like, we'll just tell the truth and trust the kids to, obviously you don't want to dump everything on the kids. You don't want to involve them too much, but
right,
they're not idiots, right? They're going to ask you questions, and when they point blank ask you questions, right? It's like I have half the people telling me, "Well, don't tell them, lie to them," and I'm thinking, well, if I tell them the truth, that's a burden too, right?
yeah,
Like, so how do you even know what the right thing is to do in that situation?
right, yeah. And I think at least for me, in my experience, is like the kids are going to figure out the truth one way or the other,
Right,
right? They see through. They
right,
understand a lot more than I think we give them credit for,
yes,
right? And it's like someone tells you, "Oh, don't tell them the truth," but is that the relationship you want to have with your kids? Right? Of like, do you want to be the one that is lying to them? Because to me, it didn't feel good to lie to them. Do I want to protect them from certain things? Yes. Do they
yes.
need to know it at the age of 7 the reasons why we got divorced? Probably not. Right? Like they don't need all the level of
Just
detail.
by the way you're talking, I feel like you and me had very similar reasons.
Right. Right. Like they don't need to read the parenting agreement at 5 years old, but they're gonna have questions when they're 13 of
Yeah,
like, why do I have to split my time this way? Why does mom get to do this and you get to do that? Why can't I do this? Right. And it's like, well, it, they- if they were 5 years old and asked those questions, I think I'd have different answers. But, 13, 15, 17, it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth because A, you deserve the truth and I want to live an honest life as best that I can. But I also think, how does that actually serve the kids by misguiding them or misleading them as to because they're going to experience things in life that I don't think that we anticipate right now, and they're not always going to be positive. And
right.
I think for me, my mindset has been I'd rather expose them to the negativity in a setting that they are still protected in, they are still safe in now, so that when they do experience things that are unsettling to them later, they'll have something to fall back on. Now, I hope my kids never have to go through the process of the divorce, right? And I hope that whatever challenging moments they come up with, that by telling them, like, this is how I handle things. Was it perfect? Probably not. Here's what I could have done better. Here's what I think really worked. Maybe that'll arm them with a little bit better decision making so they don't get themselves in situations where they don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah.
But again, not gonna be perfect, right? Like, I'd be able to give them every
You don't
idea
wanna
and skill
burden
set.
them. You don't wanna burden them with too much stuff that's none of their like, it's not their responsibility to carry that burden, but sometimes, if your kid is saying, "Dad, just tell me," no one will talk to me, no one will answer my questions. So you have that where it's like you have to balance, like, is this too much of a burden for a child versus how much are they gonna suffer just wondering in silence what the hell is happening to their life? And then another aspect of the whole thing is I've always tried to never lie to my kids, and that's just so that I can have a good open relationship with them. Because
Yep,
eventually, even if you're lying or trying to hide something for their own benefit, eventually they're going to figure that out. And then they're going to question, well, can I trust you? I'm not saying that everything that I say is 100% the truth in the absolute sense, but I always try to at least say the truth from my perspective. This is how I see it. This is what I think it is. And then later you can evaluate me, but whether I was right or wrong, at least I was giving you an honest opinion from my perspective,
yep,
So, and I feel like that's why I have a good relationship with all my kids to this day, regardless of everything that's happened. That we're open, we can talk about things, they can come to me with stuff because they know I'm not going to lie to them. They
right.
might not like everything they hear,
Yep,
but I'm not going to lie.
yep. Yeah, again, like you said, I think we're very similar experiences, right? And I think that that's exactly what I'm trying to do also is keep that communication open and honest so that not just so that they get the truth, 'cause I think they deserve the truth, but also so that they have something to fall back on, right? That they know that push comes to shove, there's at least an outlet there that will give them the truth, that will tell it to them straight, like, that's a good idea or that's not a good idea, or whatever they may need. Like, they might come to me like, I'm in a tough situation. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What do I do? Right. But like, my kids are willing to talk to me. And, I talk to parents that are like, oh, my teenagers want nothing to do with me. Right. And it's like, yeah, my kids like to socialize with their friends, but they still spend time with me and want to do things with me and still will come to me with problems, with questions, with whatever it may be, because I feel like, or I hope I have opened that door for them to be like, I'm here. Right. And I've shown to you over time that you can rely on me to be here when you need something.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be like overbearing and be like, all right, tell me exactly what you're doing every day. And I want to know all your problems, give it to me in a list. I'm not going to do all that. Right. But at least they know they can come to me. Now, they're probably not going to talk to me about everything. They're going to find other people that they hold in high confidence to talk about things that might be awkward to talk with their dad about. I'm okay with that too, right? But they know that at least I hope they think that they can come to me. It feels like they do because I do hang out with them a lot. I do talk to them a lot. They do come to me with questions and problems and we joke a lot and it just kind of works. But that took work but it also took honesty, right? Because I think if I tried to cover things up, they would have saw right through it. And I think the
Yeah.
time that I was probably too protective, they saw through it. And that's when they remember those things and they will hold that as like something negative that they don't want to repeat. And so they might not be so honest with you the next time if you weren't honest with them and they figure out like he's totally BSing me right now.
Yeah. I mean, something that you find out in co-parenting too. Like I remember there's a lot of times when there was a specific outcome that certain people wanted, right? And the kids didn't necessarily want that. I can name a bunch of examples. One example is my daughter was very good at volleyball, right? And one year she didn't want to play, and because she's just so talented at everything, right? But she didn't want to play volleyball. And if you've ever had a daughter in volleyball, you know that there's a lot of investment in volleyball. Club is expensive. You know what I mean? There's a lot of practices and stuff. So everyone's like, you have to play volleyball. And I got the calls like, Rob, talk to your daughter. You know what I mean? She
Yep.
needs to play volleyball. Like, you can talk to her. So I was like, okay, I'll talk to her. Got on the phone with her. I said, listen, Jewel, I don't care if you play volleyball or not, right? Like, I'm not going to convince you to play volleyball, but I want to make sure that if you decide not to do it, you're doing it because you don't want to do it. You're not doing it to spite anybody. You're not doing it to be stubborn, to prove you can't be pushed. Put all that stuff to the side, put me to the side, put your mom to the side, put everybody to the side. Think about what you actually want to do, regardless of those influences, and then do that, right? And she decided to play. And then it's like, okay, thanks for talking to her, Rob. And I'm like, look, I didn't tell her anything.
Right.
I was just trying to advocate for her to do what she wanted to do. And I think that that kind of stance in the long run is why I have a good relationship with the kids. Like, I never try to force them to do anything,
Right.
but when they're in a position, I want to make sure that they're doing it for the right reasons, not because I said so or because their mom said so or because someone said not to. Just forget all that. Like, what do you want? And
Yeah.
I think they appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. And I'm not along because like my daughter did competitive dance for 10 years, right? And it was like volleyball is a big investment, right? You got to buy costumes, you got these competitions, there's travel and everything else. And it all adds up. But as she entered high school, she started to think more about other activities. She wanted to get into theater and into choir and a cappella and all that stuff. And she decided that she wanted to give up competitive dance, and someone told her, "You can't give it up. You've been doing it too long. You have to keep doing it, especially when you get to high school, because then it becomes an even bigger thing with the competitive high school teams." And I said to her, "Look, if at the end of the day, this is your life that you're living, nobody else is living it for you, right? Like, I'm not going to the dance practices. I might drop you off there, but I'm not going to the practices. I'm not learning the routines. I'm not learning the choreography and whatever needs to be done for dance, right?" And I know nothing about dance, so I don't really know if I'm even speaking correctly about this, but like, you're the one that has to spend that time doing that. Nobody else is spending that time for you. So at the end of the day, you have to decide how you want to spend your time. I can't tell you how to spend your time at this point. Like, you know what you enjoy doing and you know what you want to explore and you know what you don't know a lot about theater yet, but you want to learn more about it. If that's more interesting than continuing dance, then go for it. Like, it's up to you. But if you want to keep doing dance, I will support that too. Whichever direction you want to go, but it's you spending time that day. I'm going through this with my son right now, figuring out colleges.
Yeah.
Like, right? He's got it narrowed down to his top 3 now. And it's like, I know where I want him to go, but I don't want to tell him that because I don't want to unduly influence him. I want him to decide where he wants to go because he's the one that has to live through college. He's the one
Right.
that has to go to classes. He's the one that has to live in the dorms. He's the one that's got to eat his meals there. He's the one that's got to make friends there. Not me, not his mom, not anybody else, right? At the end of the day, that's him. It's his life and his time. And who am I to tell him? Like, I can help him, make decisions in terms of like, is this the right program for me? Do they have the right resources, career resources, or whatever things he might be looking for? Do they have the clubs that he wants? Like, I can help him evaluate that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to be the one living there. I'm not going to be the one doing the work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really not up to me. I think, like you did with your daughter, of being like, hey, do this. This is up to you. If you want to keep playing volleyball, go for it. And if not, that's okay too. Just don't do it for the wrong reasons. You can guide them in terms of like, don't do it to spite somebody. Don't do it to prove something. Do it because that's what you want to do. So I find it really interesting. That's how you took a similar approach to how I did. And I wanted to ask you also about divorce and like how it shakes everything up, right? We've talked a little bit about this already with like somebody wants the child to do one thing and you want to do something else, or they want to lie, you want to tell the truth, whatever it may be. But it's kind of more than that also, right? Like, routines get changed, finances change, your confidence could even be affected by it. What helped you stay grounded and still show up for your kids? during that time?
I don't even know because when I think about the period right after the divorce, I feel like I was a zombie for at least a year, right? Like I don't think grounded is the right. I feel like I crashed to the ground, you know what I mean? And then I'm in the middle of this wreckage, but you still have these kids. So you
Yeah.
just kind of it almost feels like you just do the thing, right? Like you take them to places, you help them with things, you do the thing. I think in that respect, you really do try to hide the pain that you're feeling from them in that way, right? I don't feel like I was honest about that very much, but I think you just do it for I don't even know that I did it for the it's hard to explain. I distinctly remember when I was getting divorced because a lot of things happened at the same time. I got divorced. The startup company that I was working at went out of business. You know what I mean? I had a lot of things hit all at once.
Yeah.
And I thought I don't know, it felt like I was over this vast abyss, like this just infinite abyss, and that I could very easily just sink down into it and never come up. But I felt like my children were like my life preservers. Like I was holding on to them. You know what I mean? And I couldn't let them down and I couldn't like stop providing for them. So it gave me a reason to keep going. So in a lot of senses, I feel like the kids saved me and gave me the strength to do that stuff. And I don't know that I did a whole lot at all except kind of endure it, and come out the other side.
That's a great metaphor of the children being life preservers. I when I think back now, like when I first went through the divorce process, like, yeah, I was like a zombie, I think, just kind of going through the motions, but just preserving, just maintaining, right? I wasn't trying to like do more at that point. I think there I was just kind of like, all right, I just got to get through each day. Eventually things will settle down to a point where, or I'll have the time to process really like what happened and figure out what's next. Right. But I didn't want to give up because, again, like you said, the kids were, they were kind of holding me up, right? Like I was reaching up for them saying, okay, I have to keep going forward because they need steadiness in their lives. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if I don't demonstrate, you know, some form of steadiness and some sort of ability to move forward, how can I expect them to ever do the same? And the last thing I want to do is have them suffer any more than what they have to go through already as children of divorced parents. So, yeah, I think you're right. Like, the more I think about it, they were the life preservers. Like, they are the ones that motivated me just to keep going and eventually, like, get over that hump and get to that next phase of life.
Yeah. It's like a giant river, and you're literally holding on to your kids, and they're helping you to float down it until you can get to solid land.
Yeah, that's a perfect metaphor. I love that. So, you know, a lot of dads will quietly carry guilt after a divorce, right? I'm sure a lot of moms do too, but in this sense, more focused on like what you experienced through your divorce. They wonder if they can like could they have done something different, right? How did you navigate the emotional side of fatherhood amidst divorce?
Hmm. Can you elaborate a little on that? Because there's a lot of ways to go.
Yeah, sure, for sure. I left it open ended to let you to kind of to pick and choose, but I think for me, like the divorce is challenging from a lot of perspectives, right? But for me at least, like there's this there was this feeling of failure, right? How come I couldn't maintain this relationship? How come I couldn't build a strong base to be married for a lifetime in my first marriage? And I felt like I had failed. And there is emotional baggage, for me at least, that comes along with failure or with the feeling of failure. And to me, that translated to guilt, but it also translated into guilt because I felt like I was letting my kids down, right? First and foremost. Like, yes, my partnership failed, but I still had these two kids from it. And, I, for me, it was like, I don't know, there was this element of like, I could have done better. Could I have done something better? But At the same time, I'm doing what's best for the kids. And it was a really weird feeling for me of like, okay, I failed, but I also succeeded because I got out of a situation that wasn't right for me and for my kids, for my family. And I feel like, or I felt like by getting this divorce, I was doing what was in the best interest of the kids. So I guess what I'm asking is like, was there, did you feel guilty at all during this process or when you were going through divorce? Or was it just, you were, it was more for, this was the right thing to do. I did it, kind of moved on. It just, there wasn't much, there wasn't too much behind it. It was just, it didn't work out and we move on. And I didn't feel bad. It just, that was the right decision.
So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Let me start from where I'm at now. So, the relationship I'm in now, right? I'm with my soulmate, period, right? We spend almost my wife is my best partner, helps me become a better like from the place I'm at now, looking back on my previous marriage. I don't feel like a tremendous amount of guilt because I don't feel like I was the kind of person at that time that could have sustained anything. I was not a good partner. My wife was not a good partner. We got together when we were very young and we stayed together. We were high school sweethearts, right? So we got together very young and we stayed together. And there was just a lot of immaturity built into that relationship. I when the divorce first happened, guilt wasn't what I was feeling. I felt bitterness. I felt extreme bitterness. I felt betrayal. I felt like like God had cast me out. It's like, what did I do to deserve this? There was a lot of self-pity. I felt sorry for me, you know, and like I played the victim a lot. As I kind of got further from that, I realized that I contributed a lot to the things that caused the marriage to end. And I really realized that I contributed to those things because of deficiencies in my own personality, things that I had done, things, ways that I saw things, right? Like I just wasn't at a place mentally or emotionally that could sustain a long term relationship. The pain of the divorce caused me to heal and to seek answers, which then allowed me to become a good partner and enter into this wonderful relationship. But I just wasn't that guy back then. I was dumb. I was young. I was like arrogant. Like I had all these deficiencies. So it went through this thing where it's like I said, I felt bitterness. I felt rage. I felt like I was a victim. And I felt sorry for myself. And then I was like, wait, hold on. I kind of caused a lot of this stuff. I'm the reason a lot of this happened. This is actually a lot my fault. I stopped blaming my ex for her actions as much. He started working on things. And then once I kind of got to a place where I had healed that, I was in a place, oh my God, I can be with this. I could never have been with my wife now the way I was then, right? She's just too kind and beautiful of the soul. She wouldn't have stuck around for it. But where I'm at now is it's a totally different place. So I feel like I don't know, I kind of just rambled a lot, but that's kind of the process I went through after the divorce.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's really hard to recognize, I think, your own responsibility, your own action of things that didn't necessarily go your way. And I think there's a lot of ways you could feel going through a divorce or similar situation. It could be guilt, it could be anger, it could be, like you said, bitterness. It could just be realizing that, hey, I wasn't a great person then, but it could be like almost motivational to be like, I'm gonna be a better person going forward. And what appreciate most about what you said is that you found your absolute soulmate here, right? Like on the like there was even when as difficult as a divorce can be, there is opportunity on the other side, right? And you can have the life that you've always dreamed of. You can find that partner. I lucked out and was in the same boat as you. I found my absolute soulmate, like the perfect person for me for the rest of my life. I could not be happier. Like it is the best relationship. Like we spend tons of time together and we enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah.
Uh, right. We still each get our own time and whatever, but like she is perfect for me. And I couldn't be more grateful. And I think that my previous experience, my first marriage, helps me appreciate my second marriage even more,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, wow, I never realized how good it can be. And
100%. I
right,
don't think most people do. Like a lot of times I hear about these relationship experts and stuff and they're talking and it doesn't sound anything like what I'm experiencing, but what I'm experiencing sounds like what everybody wants. It's what I
yeah,
wanted before. And like sometimes people try to pretend like, oh yeah, it's all great, but inside it's not. Like I think there's a disconnect between what people are being told and what actually works.
yeah, yeah. I think it's easy to throw out advice, right, or throw out like guidance if you're a relationship expert, but it's hard to live the experience. And once you have that lived experience, no one's going to tell you, what your experience was. Like you are the one that went through it. You're the one that felt it, lived it, right? It's the same idea of like, I don't want my son going to college because that's the school I want him to go to. I want him to go to college because it's right for him. Like he's the one that's got to live it, right? And he'll have that experience and understanding. I won't really know what college is like for him. I'll know what college is like for me,
Yeah.
right? But it's same thing with marriage. If like you don't know until you do it, right? Everyone could tell you, oh, this is how it's going to be. You don't know, um, right? But there was a somebody, there was a guy who his kid is the same age as my son, and so they went to preschool together. And he got divorced while they were still in preschool. He got divorced before me, and then he got remarried a few years later. And I ran into him, and he comes up to me and he says, "This is before I met my now wife, and I just was going through my divorce." And he goes, "Second marriage is the best marriage you'll ever have." He's like, "It is you'll this is the best thing that ever happened to me because I knew what didn't work in the first one, and now I know what I want, what's going to work for me, and how I can contribute better." And it just makes it so much better. And the second one is worth everything you went through to get to that point.
100%.
I didn't know at the time. I thought he was just like, oh, he just got lucky the second time around. But like, no, it's like he's right. And it's wild, right? Because went from something so negative to something so positive.
Well,
And
when you're in that first one and you're trying to make it work, right, you're kinda doing all this stuff, you don't really it's like the second kid too, right? Like the first kid, you're super like, "Oh my god, we're gonna clean everything, we're gonna baby-proof everything," like the littlest thing, and then you realize now kids are pretty durable, you know what I mean? You don't need to panic so much about "Oh, they're in the 96th percentile and they need to be in the 98th percentile," and you know what I mean? Like, I think marriages are like that too. The thing I got out of divorce what that was really helpful to me was when I felt like I was at rock bottom after that, I knew absolutely what I was not going to ever tolerate again. Like there was a lot of stuff that I tolerated to keep the relationship going. And for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing in relationships. But when that whole divorce was going on, I absolutely for certain knew like I will never tolerate this, and this. That's never gonna happen again, and it worked great.
that's such a great perspective. I think I did that. And I didn't realize I was doing that. Right. Of like, I wasn't going to tolerate these things, like certain things that, life's too short to put up with
Yeah.
some of these things. And I don't, in the moment, I knew those things were bothering me. Right. But I didn't like create a checklist or anything of like, okay, my next marriage, this is what it's got to check these boxes. But I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, okay, I am not going to go through that again.
Yeah,
I want to be the
exactly.
person, right? Is not going to put me in that situation, put me in that position again.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah, it's
It gives
such a
you
great
it gives you
perspective.
clarity, like,
Yeah.
like, I did all these things and none of that worked. Like, all this effort and none of it worked or was even appreciated. I'm not going through that again.
Yep. Yeah, that's love that. So I want to change directions a little bit here and ask you about your work a little bit more. You eventually stepped away from a traditional job and started building your own path.
Yeah.
What gave you the confidence to do that?
I don't even know about confidence. When my first son was born, this is 2001, right? I just decided I wanted to be there. So up until that point, I was really loving the corporate life. I had started out in I went to the University of Oklahoma and I'd started a web consulting thing of my own. It was just my own company. I was doing web consulting. And then I got a job in Silicon Valley and I started working at startups there. And it was like super fast and exciting, really high pace. Moved out to Hawaii because I wanted to surf more. You know, I like the weather. Like I said, I was a military brat, so I'd lived in Hawaii as a kid. So I decided to go back out there. I started working at the top ad agency out there. And again, really high paced. We're doing things for like Bank of Hawaii and Hawaiian Airlines and the government of Japan and all these cool hotels and resorts, right? Very high paced stuff. I loved that whole corporate life. And then when I was going to have my first son, I was just thinking, I, I don't know. It all just came into question for me what I wanted to do. And I decided I was going to start working from home from that point on. And this was in 2000, like I said, 2001. Homework wasn't a big deal back then, but
Right.
I have been remote since then. I've never gone back to the office. So I don't know that it was confidence. I just decided this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work from home. I'm going to hang out with my kids, and that's what I did.
That's awesome. I love that. Again, you're demonstrating like you are following your passions, right?
Yeah.
And
For
like
better
you,
or worse.
sure, sure. But like then you learn from those experiences and figure out what your next passions are. And you seem to just keep creating newer and cooler things. Like,
It
and you
doesn't
travel.
always work though, dude. Like
No.
there's a lot of times where you will like fall on your ass.
Yep. Yeah. No, right there with you. Cause I've had my own business for 20 something years and there's been many failures along the way. Right. And like, especially in today's day and age with the economy the way it is and tariffs and everything else that's going on, like things can get really tough. Right. But
Yeah.
you got to keep showing up and it's hard to show up for things you're not very interested in.
Well, okay, so I was a senior systems analyst, right? I had two kids. I had a mortgage in Hawaii, and I decided I was going to quit my very well-paying job to be a full-time salsa instructor, right? Because that's my dream. So I got a salsa studio right on. It was right across from the convention center in Hawaii, downtown. Like all the cars driving past, there was like this beautiful like glass window you could see people, and it's like this is my dream, right? So I'm feeling real good about myself. I'm on my path. I'm doing my thing. Advertising, right? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. We're going to totally support you. The first class that I had, right? I get there. It was at 7. I get there early. I clean the floor as I wipe the mirrors. I got the music all ready. Class starts at 7, 6:45. No one's there, right? I'm like, well, it's a new place. First time. They got to see what's going on. 6:50, no one's there. I'm like, well, maybe there's no parking. They're looking for parking. 6:55, nobody's there. I'm like, okay, someone should be here by now, right? 7 o'clock, nobody there. I'm like thinking, okay, well, like, well, just don't panic. You're cool. 7:15, nobody there. I'm like, what have I done? Well, can I get my job back? You know what I mean? Well, they take me. I'll tell them I was just joking. You know? All of a sudden, it's like my kids, diapers, the mortgage, my car, all that stuff just hit me like a ton of bricks. I survived it. But like I said, sometimes you have these ideas that you're going to go follow this thing and you think it'll go one way and it just absolutely doesn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great warning for everyone out there. So you've faced setbacks both in life and work, but you've continued to create and build. And, we've talked a lot about, you know, your your film stuff and you write books. What helps you keep moving forward when things don't go the way you hoped?
Well, okay, so I'm a writer, right? Like,
Yep.
and think about your life in terms of a story, right? What if it was just like he did well and then 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 he died, right? That's the worst possible story.
Yeah.
And plus, like in jujitsu, we have a saying, ass whoop is the best teacher, right? So
Yep.
I think like if you look at your life from the lens of a story, then you need to have both good and bad for it to be interesting. And in order for either one of like to have great things happen or to have terrible things happen, you have to be willing to take risks.
Right.
And I enjoy risks. I'm not risk averse. I'm not confrontation averse. So it's just something that's kind of in my nature. And then I feel like I learned, we talked about it, even divorce, like the lessons you learn in life. Like you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes, I feel like. So if you can kind of plus, dude, if you just step back, like while it's happening to you, it's not funny, right? But if you give it a little distance and you step back, sometimes it's just hilarious how bad things
Yeah.
can go. You're just like, oh my God, this is funny. If it wasn't
Right.
happening to me right now, it would be like funnier, but
Yep.
this is kind of funny how bad this is right now.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And again, it's you live those experiences, so you take something from them. So even if they don't go right, they kind of can help you figure out what you want to do next.
And it gives you
Or
material.
right. And it gives you material, especially if you're a writer or a comedian like yourself. Like it
Yeah.
does.
You just
Right.
like write it in the notebook. Like, here we go.
Yeah. You never know. So I want to get your advice on a couple things before we wrap up. For
Okay.
dads who are still in the thick of raising kids, what are some things you wish you worried less about when your kids were younger?
Huh. I don't know. I think this is more of a meta kind of answer, but I think the answer to this is outcomes. I think the mistake that I made with my kids is the mistake that was made with me. So my dad came over here. Like, so my dad's side of the family, both my parents are immigrants, but my dad's side came over here from the Philippines and had nothing. They worked in the fields, they had nothing. And, within a little while, they were like homeowners and landowners. They did really well, right? But there was this very rigid outcome based mentality about how you do that, right? And that was transferred to me. So when I was growing up, it didn't matter how much of a dick I was or like anything as long as I won. Get straight A's in school, win the tournament, you know what I mean? In sports, like get the scholarship to college. I did all those things, right? I was like number one on my tennis team. I got straight A's in school. I got a full ride to college on academics. Like I did all the things, but my mindset was all outcome based. And I feel like it made me a bit toxic. And it was one of the things that contributed, like I think, to the failure of my first marriage is that kind of toxic mentality. What my current wife kind of taught me was a different approach. And now I like to focus more on effort and process, right? Because if you're outcome based, you spend your whole life as a loser, right? A lot of people that are goal oriented are really just they spend all their time as losers, no matter how much they win. Because what happens is you set a goal, and that's the thing. And if you hit the goal, at that point, you're a winner. But while you're working towards the goal, you're a loser, right? So
Yep.
it's like you spend 99% of your time as a loser. And then if you succeed for a little bit of a time, you're a winner. And then you have to set another goal. And now you're a loser again until you hit it. So you have these brief moments of feeling like a winner. Whereas if you base it on process and effort, right? Did I like say you want to get I don't know, in shape or something like that. Did I work out today? I did. I'm a winner today. Did I try
Yep.
my hardest today? I did. I'm a winner today. If you just focus on the process and the effort, the result will come.
Right.
So I think that was a big shift that happened to me. And I feel like it happened a bit too late. I think I was very hard on my kids earlier on with that. And I wish I could have changed that approach. I still want them to be successful,
Right.
right? But I think that this is a better, more healthy way to achieve that success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not something that would immediately come to my mind, but it makes all the sense in the world of what you just said of like, we don't need to be so outcome based with our kids. And really it's the process, the experience, the what you take from it that is more valuable than whatever the end result is. And it's, it's great advice. I love it. So on the flip side, what are some moments or choices you're really glad you made as a dad?
I mean, the work from home thing, obviously, right? I got to go to all the practices. I got to be there for all the things. And surprisingly enough, getting divorced. That was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was one of the toughest things I ever went through. But had I stayed married, like the toxicity in that relationship would have probably poisoned my kids. I don't even know what kind of a dickhead I would be today. Like getting divorced was the right thing to do. And I'm glad that we did it. It was hard for the kids, but I think looking at how they all turned out now,
Yeah.
um, it worked out. Like I really, because I feel like my ex and her husband model a good relationship for the kids. Me and my wife model a healthy relationship. And there's really not very much tension anymore. They don't see that. When we were getting divorced, there was fights all the time. We were
Yeah,
yelling at each other. There was all these intense negative emotions in the house. And since then, like honestly, like my wife and I hardly ever fight. We rarely have conflict. And the kids being in that kind of environment, I think is way healthier.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's my wife and I tried to model what a healthy relationship should look like for the kids because they've seen what an unhealthy relationship is, one that leads to divorce. So our primary goal on a day-to-day basis is to model a healthy relationship. Unfortunately, we just don't seem to ever fight, which she
Yeah.
thinks is weird. I think is great, but
I don't think that's weird at all.
yeah, right. We just get along. It works. And yeah, I love that. All right. So we're gonna go from heavy topics to something completely unserious. Speed round has nothing to do with anything. 5 quick questions for you. Starting with what's the first kid show theme song that comes to mind?
Barney,
Barney. Okay.
Barney, absolutely.
Yeah. What was your very first job?
Okay, hustle or job?
I'll take either answer or
My
both.
okay, my first hustle, I was in first or second grade in Hawaii. They had a big hurricane. And me and my friends got a gang together and we went around cleaning up people's we just stole a bunch of garbage bags from our parents, went around cleaning yards all over the base and made a ton of money.
Wow. In first grade?
We were little. Yeah.
Wow, that's
I
awesome.
remember I came home and do you remember that? Like most people don't remember the 80s, but back in the day, having a 20 was a big deal, right?
Yes.
And I had a
Yeah.
stack of 20s. And my dad was like, where did you get that?
Yeah. That's amazing. That's awesome. Would you rather spend 24 hours with a toddler-sized T-Rex or a T-Rex-sized toddler?
Toddler sized T Rex. It sounds very cute and you could probably wrestle with it.
Love that. That's a great answer. What's your go-to karaoke song or the one you would sing if you had to?
I got it, dude. It's Back That Ass Up by Juvenile. Bro, every time we do this at the club, it turns up. Like any club I'm at when they have karaoke and I do Back That Ass Up, it turns up. The whole club will be twerking.
I bet. I never thought about that, but that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, dude, you should do it, dude. You would kill with that.
That's well beyond my capabilities. I've got my own songs, but that ain't one of
If you did, the whole place would go crazy.
them. Right. They would
No
I
one
would
would
definitely get some
expect it.
looks
They would not expect it.
for sure. All right, last one. What's the weirdest thing you've ever carried around in your bag, briefcase, or pockets?
Oh man, I think okay, it's sand. Sand.
Okay.
When I first got to Hawaii, I kept getting beat up by these giant Samoan kids in school. They were like huge, and they just beat me up at recess all the time for no reason. So I started carrying sand in my pocket. So when they try to beat me up, I just flick it at them and run away.
Smart. Got to work with what you got.
You got to work with what you got.
That's great. Rob, I appreciate you joining me. Before we wrap up, I want to give you the chance to share anything you're working on right now or building right now. What would you like listeners to know about, or where can they go follow your work?
I mean, if you want to, there's not really a place to follow my work. robcapili.com has some old projects. I haven't updated it, but I am working on, as you know, a series called Grown Ass Men. And this is a series that I wrote about my experiences getting divorced and a lot of my buddies' experiences. So this is kind of for guys like us that have gone through divorce and it's just funny. It's funny. It's heartbreaking and it's about the things that we went through. Because one of the things that I really noticed going through divorce is like nobody cares about guys, right? Like everyone's about like, oh, how to your ex or the woman is like, how are you doing? Are you up? But nobody cares about guys at all. Like we just don't exist. No one cares how we feel. So I wrote this series for us. So if anyone has stories or ideas or things they want to contribute to the series that I'm writing, Grown Ass Men, hit me up. I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Rob, thank you again for joining me for this conversation. Your willingness to talk openly about rebuilding after divorce and kind of going through that whole process and the mindset you had for raising your kids, it was so down to earth and so practical, so real. And you do all that and then you go and create these cool things, like all these cool things, right? Like I know you just undersold yourself there and talking about like this web series you're working on and you've got, you've got the books that you've either edited or wrote yourself like Lover's Quarrel and you've got so many different cool things you're doing in AI. It's like how you balance all that is just always so impressive. And you do it with such humility and such grace, but also really fun, right? Like it's
I
so hard to talk to you and not smile, right? Because you're just like, it's you're just a cool guy. Like
I think you're a
you're
cool guy, man. Thanks
well,
for having me on here.
yeah, like, you are like my idea of cool. Like I think you are what I aspire to in terms of coolness. But either way, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for sharing with your story with us today. I appreciate it. And finally, before you go, if you're a dad listening to this and you find yourself in between navigating a season that feels different, head to gap2gig.com and subscribe to the Gap to Gig newsletter. Comes out every Friday and it's a quieter space to reflect on work, life, and what really matters right now. And if this conversation resonated, consider sending it to another dad who might need to hear it. Until next time, I'm Michael Jacobs. Thanks for showing up and listening to Gap to Gig.